To Pete McGuire, CEOXM.com, live in our Sydney CBD studio. Pete, welcome to you. Back on another theme running, and that is the OPEC v. some of the exempt nation states story. Libya in our sights. The market's stressing a little bit about a breaking away from the pack. A production buoyant number comes out of that market versus everyone else that's being disciplined. Does that upset the equation?
Well, good afternoon, Carson. It probably does. I mean, when you think of Nigeria and Libya both had exemptions as far as production. Libya's increased its production. They're back at fairly strong numbers, about 760,000 barrels per day, and they're looking to boost that number. There's analysts saying you could see 1 million barrels a day. So they've really got an agenda to try and capture what they lost, like Iran did many years ago with the sanctions. The same things across from Libya's perspective.
Talk to as well a bigger picture connection, and that is China. We got a Purchasing Managers Index too, weakening off in April. Does that swerve price action? Is it a momentary passing release and you move on? I mean, how do you judge it?
Well, not really. I mean, look, as far as the consumption over there, we've still got, large build and ongoing demand that hasn't waned at all. They're a long way away from electric cars, let me tell you. But when you're looking at China as a whole, from bitumen production and, of course, highways and everything to do with crude, their consumption pattern, they'll be probably, #1 consumer over the next, 5 to 8 years. And I just think it seems to be growing year on year. So
you did say they're a long, long way from electric cars. Put a time frame on it. Could they prove, speedier at getting there than we've given them credit for? Well,
I think they will. I mean, the world's changing. We understand from a consumption side. You're probably, a 5 to 8 year window. You've got those large auto producers and, of course, the motorbike producers very much, satisfying their market. But the outsiders coming in, the Priuses, and then going up the curve as far as, the Teslas and so on, just depends on the rapid rollout as far as European marks and so on. But I think we've got a fairly strong consumption, growing for petro and diesel cars.
Just want to pull away, Pete, from the macro, just back on stock specific, because we just had on our talking point says Santos and the rally on today. Really late release from the ASX, as if to say they were watching live at 5, and here it is before us. An alert now, whether we can talk, it's a rather technical kind of listing or announcement, upping its interest in EPA 111 and EPA 124 CTP. So that's Central Petroleum, and that's exercising its option to acquire a 50% participating interest in EPA 111 and EPA 124. Might Adam Dawes that partly explain the rally on for Santos today?
It could. It's looking those EPAs in the southern Amadeus Basin, adjacent to Santos' existing operation and joint venture with Central Petroleum. So
building out the business,
increasing their land holding, and doesn't give us any indication on whether there's any gas there or any there, but they're definitely acquiring that 50% interest. So that's
it's kind of nice that there's, rather than taking full responsibility and all the consequences of that, Central Petroleum retaining that 50% participating interest.
Well, that's right. So they do that. Larger companies will help farm out or farm in agreements, and they'll do that so that the other company does all the work, and they're sort of sitting with the balance sheet behind it.
Let's just tick off briefly as well, staying with you, Adam. Preferred play in that sector right here, right now would be what?
Well, I would be very boring and say Woodside. For me, Oil Search and a sell on Santos.
Okay, Pete, last word from you, and that's bullion. Basically hasn't done anything for a year if you look at a one-year view. Convince me it's going to do anything different in the next 6 months. Why would you be holding it even in an ETF capacity?
Well, I think we've got to see what happens today and tomorrow, or later today and tomorrow with the Fed, what they're going as far as rate rises. Do we see something in June? 70% are saying you will see, Carson, a rate rise in June. How many further for 2017? Yeah, the market, when you look at it over the year, we've had a lot of movement, but if you're looking year on year, that hasn't been a great deal. So I think in turn, you've just got to have some in your portfolio. Trump and North Korea, what happens there? what happens on Monday with Le Pen? Does she beat Macron? That could cause uncertainty. So there's still a fair bit of volatility, and that leads, of course, up into the German elections come September, Carson.
All right. You may well be an election monitor, one suspects. You know, you've got form for getting to the hotspots, not least of all OPEC and Vienna. It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to move across borders.
Bridge across.
Nice to talk as always, Pete. Safe travels wherever they take you, and we'll check in with